Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Janat Namara. I do the communications and engagement at Sunbird. I want to thank every one of you for joining us today. I hope you can hear me. I can see some thumbs up for people who can hear me. I'm loud and clear. Yeah, okay.
Loud and clear.
All right. Um, Right. So I'm delighted to welcome you to this session where we are going to be launching the sunflower speech ecosystem that we have added to our Sunbird African language technology that we've been building. So some of you might know about Sunbird AI, some of you might not know about Sunbird AI, and this is the first time that you are interacting with us. And if that's the case, welcome. I'm going to take you through the various things that we do and how we do said things. So, about Sunbird AI, who are we? What do we do? Where are we located? So, Sunbird AI is a nonprofit organization in Uganda that builds practical AI solutions for social good in the African context, in the Ugandan context. And the reason we do this is because we want to be able to impact people's lives in a positive way, solve some social problems and or aid the solutions to these social problems. We also want to use AI and data to be able to generate evidence for policy and as well as contribute to the African AI ecosystem. We're the Ugandan AI ecosystem because there's very many global giants, and a lot of the conversations now are centered around artificial intelligence and all these different models and all these things that are possible with artificial intelligence. But that pace is just starting to pick up in Africa, and we hope that we can at least contribute to that in some shape or form. So over the past few years, we Sunbit has existed for about 6 years, and over the past few years, we've been working on quite a number of different projects. Sorry, working on a number of different projects, and we wanted to explain a little bit why we chose to work with AI and data as opposed to any other tool that would be available for driving positive development. So we saw that AI is quite a big, it can help us leapfrog some of the resource constraints that exist in Africa. We have less resources, we have infrastructure constraints and things like that. So can we use AI to help us kind of jump forward a little bit in the ways that we were often lacking before? Can we use it to support planning and timely decisions? Can we use AI to strengthen the feedback loop between citizens and governments, or use that same technology to inform policy and develop different work frames around it? And so the way we've done that is through a few projects. So we have a hardware and embedded section of Sunbird AI that tries to build hardware that is AI enabled, but also fits in a resource constrained environment. For example, what you were seeing on the screen right now is a noise monitor. These noise monitors were built by Sunbird AI. They can run on solar power, and they also have an AI sensor in them. And they've been deployed around Kampala and Entebbe so they can classify the types of noise. We can measure rain sounds and different things like that. And as you can imagine, this is actually quite a big, large data set. So there's multiple use cases that can go around that. So we do environmental AI. We also do green energy AI. So we have built a few models that can identify places to put mini solar grids in rural Uganda so that we can extend electricity access to people who do not have access to electricity. As you can imagine, having a tool like this, as opposed to having 3 years of surveys and different things like that, now you can get an exact coordinate to put your mini solar grid and supply a whole village of people with electricity. That cuts down a lot of the time and resources and can be redirected into something else that is more pressing. We also work on something called data cities, where we are working with the new 15 new implemented cities in Uganda to use data and artificial intelligence to do evidence-based governance. So can we move from reactionary planning to evidence-based planning? And then for the most popular thing that we are known for is African language technology, and more recently, Sunflower. The Sunflower was launched last year in October. For some of you, you might have been around and have interacted with it. If you've not interacted with it, this would be your chance to ask questions, try the interface, ask us about the API and different things like that. So Sunflower is Uganda's truly first large language model that speaks 29 Ugandan languages or texts 29 Ugandan languages and in about two from the region. And it can translate, summarize, explain, and generate text. So we built this technology to make sure that we can include everybody in the digital space and in the AI space that keeps moving. So you'll see as we go through our presentation today that we're expanding on Sunflower's ecosystem, and it's part of our broader effort to make sure that African languages are fully represented in the world. Yeah. So now to guide us into this conversation as we start the next hour of our session, we're going to be hearing from Sunbird AI's board member, Professor Engineer Bainomigisha, who will be taking us through the importance of African language technology, as well as the importance of speech technologies for Africans in the context that we exist in. So it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Engineer Bainomigisha. He has been a long-standing advocate for technology and innovation around Africa. Professor Engineer, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Janat. Thanks everyone for joining. Very exciting to get into the launch of speech technologies by Sunbird AI. So, yeah, on behalf of the board of Sunbird AI, we're really excited to see all the progress that the Sunbird team is making. So, thanks to all the team members at Sunbird. And the board has, since the last 6 years, the board has been, really pushing for Sunbird to lead the frontiers of AI technology in Africa, more so contextualizing that. So for today, we're really excited as a board, and we hope the audience is also excited. We're excited about, this, speech technology that Sunbird is going to be launching. But I wanted to, give you a bit of insights why Sunbird board is actually excited about the speech technology. So why do we really need to have speech technology for African languages? As you might know it, with the explosion of, large language models, I think what we see, the common, theme across these language models is that most of these AI systems are designed to be interacted with in major languages, English being one of those, French, and other major languages. But back to the continent, we know that, we have, over 2,000 African languages. But actually, if you interact with most of these, language models, less than 1% of these 2,000 languages are actually fully supported in terms of speech and text interactions. So the most offerings usually for these language models assume that people who can use them should at least maybe know English and can also read English, can type it, and also can be able to read it. But what is the reality on the African continent? Really, the reality on the African continent is that the majority of the people use language, of course, as a communication tool, but mostly in spoken or voice form. So people, speak to each other in their mother tongue, communicating with each other, but usually by voice. If you need to communicate with someone selling, tomatoes in your market, you don't first write down a note and then they write back the feedback. Normally you have to say, Jagara enyanya in Luganda, then they speak back. So how do we unlock or contextualize the language models to be able to speak to the African realities? And we really see, Africa positioning in this space in two dimensions. On one hand, Africa can, position to consume the AI models as is, which of course is basically less, they're supporting less of African languages in the form and interfaces that can really fit our context. But we also have another choice. We could decide to build these language models, adapt to them, contextualize them in a way that they can actually work for the continent. And I think, as the Sunbird board, this is where we see Sunbird coming in. We think that Sunbird should fill in this option of actually building, AI technology by local teams that they understand the context. And they can really build the AI and the language models that speak our local languages, but also understand and can reason in the African context. And we think if we can unlock this potential, we see that this speech technology means a lot of huge impact for the continent. You can imagine different use cases. Imagine, farmers can be able to ask language models advice about their farming practices, and instantly they can hear back the advice in their local language, in their accent, in their context. Government services can be made available in any language that we speak in Africa, 2,000 languages. That's a very ambitious goal. But you can also imagine many other possibilities that you can potentially unlock with speech technology. So we're very much looking forward to what Sunbird AI can do to help Africa unlock this potential. And I want to invite Dr. John Quinn to take us a bit into the details of what Sunbird has.
Great. Thank you so much, Professor Bainimagisha. Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks everyone for coming. So just to follow on from those comments, it's clear that African languages are underserved in AI amidst this AI boom. And it goes a bit further. So speech models in general get less attention than everything else. So almost everyone is working on text at the moment, text LLMs. We're increasingly seeing vision text LLMs, and that capability is coming along, where you can prompt a model with either an image or a video or text. And only occasionally we get new speech models, right? And especially models which are real time, like where you could speak to them in speech or in text and get back straight away a response, either in speech or text. We know, as Professor Bainimagisha has articulated, African languages tend to get less attention in this AI period of activity, and open source also gets less attention. So we feel that this gap for open source speech language models for African languages. So to take us through what we've got, there's a few models we've had in production for a while, which are being used for various purposes, and some new stuff which we're announcing today. So speech to text, we've been running this for a while. Our current best models based on Whisper Large, and we've been working on various kinds of tricks for improving the accuracy of that. For example, Janat mentioned we're working on environmental sensing, and we collect like street noise in Uganda, so we mix that into our training samples. So we have, this model that is robust to the kind of acoustic conditions we get here. Our speech model, we believe we're state of the art in various languages, so we won this Kinyarwanda competition last year. Text to speech, we have a model in 6 languages. That's going to be expanded quite soon. We've got some candidate models with more African languages. Sunflower text, so Jeanette described that. So that was launched last year in October. we're um, working actively now on refining the responses to that, so doing extra reinforcement learning. It's just to fix. Sometimes it kind of glitches out or gives unreliable responses. So we're working on improving the consistency of that. And what we're going to talk about today is our speech-aware LLM, so sunflower speech, fusing together parts of these models. Okay, so Sunflower LM, we've already covered this. We took a bunch of text in local languages and adapted the Qwen 3 models to have comprehension of the majority of Ugandan languages. Had some pretty interesting results with that. And what we're doing now is some recent work which has been going on over the last part of last year. We've got some research which is about to be published in the Africa NLP workshop at the end of this month. And this is about turning our Sunflower LLM model into a speech-aware LLM. Okay, so almost all the time, whenever you speak with your voice to an AI system, it's a cascade of models, right? There's a speech-to-text model, which first gets the text of what you've said. Then that text is fed into a text LLM, and that outputs text, and maybe a text-to-speech model creates the speech. Okay, so you've got this cascade of three models. What we've been looking at is fusing together a speech recognition model with the text LLM. So we take our Whisper Large, which we've spent some time refining for Ugandan languages. We take the encoder part of that, discard the decoder, so we kind of drop half of that Whisper model and plug it into our Sunflower LLM. Okay, so for the more research oriented, basically the Sunflower LLM is becoming the decoder of the Whisper model. So what this means in practice is we have an LLM which can be prompted either with speech or with text. Okay, so we speak, and that audio waveform goes directly into the model as a prompt, and the text response streams back. So there's no ASR stage here, right? If you prompt it with this text, it's not first transcribing it and then getting the response. It's like directly emitting the response. And as a result, it's like a lot faster than a cascade, and we can often get our time to first token well under 100 milliseconds if it's a shorter prompt. We'll show you some demos later with it being pretty fast, and most of the delay you'll see is actually just I/O. It's just a kind of delay getting the data in and out of the web browser. So it's a lot more natural to use for these kind of spoken applications. So just to take you through, people might be wondering, how do I try this? What does this mean for me? So we've got this model which is now live. So you can try this out. I should say this is kind of an experimental stage. So we're publishing the research this week. So it needs an 80 gigabyte GPU to run it. So you need like an A100 or something like that. And the responses are not super consistent. So sometimes it might answer in the wrong language or occasionally misinterpret the question. So we're working on extra fine tuning to improve this. But we think it's a pretty exciting and quite fun model to try. So taken in that spirit of like experimental preview access of something that we think is pretty exciting. The model's there, so play around with that. We have our production models for speech to text and text to speech already on Hugging Face, and people have been using that for quite some time. That's in various deployment scenarios already. We have an API where you can call these things and various user interfaces. So what's going to happen next is Patrick from our technical team is going to talk through our speech interfaces if people just want to kind of try things online on the web. And then we'll have a demo, we'll have a preview demo of this interface we've got for interacting with the speech LLM. And so we'll kind of demo what that looks like now. We're still fixing up the user interface, so it's not quite public yet, but that's going to be coming very soon. Okay, so with that, let me hand over to Patrick to start the demo of our existing deployed speech to text and text to speech to start stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John and Janet. Yes, so What I'm going to be taking you through is what has been just said before. So our text LLMs are then speech to text and the text to speech technologies. Let me just share my screen here for a moment. I think my screen is visible now. So yes, so for the first ones, I think which Dr. John mentioned is our text LLM, so which was launched last year. So I think for many of us who are here, I think you have already been at least interfaced with Sunflower, or if it is your first time, you just need to set off to sunflower.sunbird.ai, then you get to meet this interface. So it has two modes. One is the is the chat mode where you can just type in anything and then you get a response back. Then also it has the translation mode where you can enter text, then select the language you want to translate from and the language you want to translate to. Yes, so then here also there are different options that you can try with, or something to do with explanation where you can choose from something and then you can get something back as a response. So going to our speech technologies. So one is SAR, that is automatic speech recognition, where you have an audio recording and you want to translate it to text, or you have text and you want to have it as speech or audio back. So when you head over to speech.sunbird.ai, and you come to speech to text, so this interface gives you access to our speech model. So here there are a few steps that you need to follow. So where you have one, you just need to upload an audio, choose the language in which the audio is, run the transcription, and then view the results. So for example, let me record myself here. So let me, ndi mu meeting ekwatagana ku teknologia. So I finish recording myself, then I am going to choose a language in which the audio is. So this is in Luganda. Then you run the transcription. So once you run this, then you will be here. It will be telling you that if the LM is in sleep mode, then so yes. So the first was when I think I said some random words, but so let me demo meeting ekwatagana ku teknologia. Yes. Then the other is you can also upload an audio and then also select the language in which the audio is. So these are the languages that we support for speech to text. Then also run the transcription. And so since this audio is somehow big, so let's give it some time for it to give us a response. So as this is also coming, processing the transcription, for developers who would want to use our LLMs, we have APIs that can give you access to these models through integrations with code. So if you head over to docs.sunbird.ai, under API reference, so we have the speech to text, then the text to speech APIs. Then also we do have the Sunflower chat, so where you can see how you can run these with code and get responses in any application that you would wish to integrate it into. Then also, as John said, so for those people who are interested maybe to run these models locally on your machines, if you have access to GPU compute. So if you head over to Hugging Face, we have collections. So the Sunflower collection models are here. So in 14 billion and 32, then also the quantized forms of Sunflower. Then also a collection to the speech models, what John presented. So the Whisper V3 sort and the text-to-speech model, which is the TTS model as you are seeing on the screen. So just a moment. So let me go back to so this is the audio that I uploaded. So if I play,
ndowooza yange ku baana bano abato abatanneetuuka okufuna embuto enfuna ya Uganda butuufu
yeah, so you can play just to follow through to make sure that what you have transcribed is correct. So this is a Luganda audio, then that is its transcription. Then our text to speech. So here is where also you have text and you would want it to be in form of audio. So the steps are just get your text, then select the voice in which you want to generate the audio into. So here there are a few audios that we support for now. So these are the languages, and for now also the audios are just by female gender, but only one male gender, but we are looking at improving and adding on more voices to this. So let me just get some text here, random text. So you put it here, then select the voice. So we have a Luganda female speaker. So then click on generate text. So this, you get to see. Yes, so that is just a sample of how that person speaking for a given text. So you can put your text, let's say Luganda text or Swahili, depending on the languages that you see here. And then you should be able to convert that. Then you can also download this. So I think I've already demonstrated how you can also use our APIs. So next, what I'm going to show is now the transitioning of the combination of Sunflower, text LLM, then the speech to text and text to speech into our new speech aware LLM, where you can speak into the LLM and you are also getting voice responses into as back to you. So
our speech. It is the very first of its kind speech native large language model for Ugandan languages. It is built on top of our state-of-the-art large language model, Sunflower, and our state-of-the-art audio processing models. What it does is that it produces audio directly without a separate transcription step, allowing us to directly speak and interact with Sunflower using voice. It would give you a very quick preview on it. So there are two modes. One is the conversation mode, and the second is the translation mode. In the conversation mode, we can speak directly to Sunflower, ask it questions, and it will be able to answer back in any of the target languages that Sunflower already supports. In the translation mode, we can be more direct and ask it to respond in a target language. So that means I can ask a question and it will translate directly to one of these languages. So I will start with the conversation mode. How does photosynthesis work? As you can see, it instantly listened to my voice and transcribed. So notice how fast that is. The very first word appeared in 55 milliseconds. That is 20 times faster than traditional systems. So let's try out the translation mode. In fact, now let us try again the conversation mode. But this time, ask it to specify or explain in a specific language. Can you explain what climate change is in Acholi? As you can see, we are able to speak directly to Sunflower and it will respond in those target languages. Now, next, I will quickly show the translation mode. So like I said, that in translation mode, we choose a target language and Sunflower will always respond in that target language. So for example, if my target language is English, I will speak in Luganda and translate to English, right? Abana bagenda ku ssomero njagala mmere naye sirina ssente. Right, as you can see, fast and very efficient in the way that it transforms my speech into text and then goes to the sunflower model and gives it. Great. Now, one more thing that I wanted to show is in the conversation mode, you can even have more complex conversations like write me a function in Python to reverse a list while giving me comments in Luganda. The next I will demo how we can use sunflower speech to speak back to us. So to do this, I will choose a speak back option, and this allows voice shorteners with assistant. And specifically, I'll choose from one of these voices. And so when I speak sunflower, it should speak back. How do you count from 1 to 5 in Ateso?
In Ateso, you can count from 1 to 5 like this. 1. Idupe 2. Yare 3. Iuni 4. Iongon 5. Ikani.
Explain in Runyankole what climate change is.
Empinda hinduka y'obwire n'empinda hinduka y'obwire erikureetwa abantu n'obuhangwa bwa butosha. Eki nikimanyisa enjura eyeyongyere okweyongyera kw'ebugumu y'amaizi n'okweyongyera kw'ebihikiriza by'obwire. Okukyandira kw'obutare bw'omuzira, okujanjara kw'endwara n'okukyendera kw'obuhangwa bw'ensi n'obuhangwa bw'ensi n'ebimwe aha bintu ebirikurugamu empinda hinduka y'obwire. Okukyendera.
Right, so that is sunflower speaking back. Now, this is very experimental and still in the early stages of development, but we thought we'd give you a very quick preview on it.
So that is our speech, our LLM, which is in experimental mode right now. So let me give it back to John or Janet. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to Dr. Engineer Bainam Gisha, Dr. John, and Patrick for taking us through the technical presentations. I see that there's a few people who are asking some questions, and I would like to encourage you to keep the questions coming. Pretty soon, we're going to have about a 10 to 15 minute Q&A session where you can either type your questions in the chat, and if you would like to have a more broader question and would like to speak it, we shall have a little session very shortly to do that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So now that we have gone through the technical meat of this technology that we have built, how do we apply it? What do we envision to be the different use cases that can come from technology like this? And as Sunbird, we thought there was a few places that we could apply it. Of course, with the people on the call, this is something that we can think through. We want this session to be interactive, as interactive as possible. So can you use the African speech for the developers? You can use the models to build voice-enabled applications for African languages. The reason why we are very committed to open source is because we want to be able to contribute to this ecosystem. If we can build the foundational technologies, can other people adapt them and build other things on top of it? Because we are a small team, so we cannot build everything. But if we can build the foundational technologies and open source them, make them accessible, can you guys build cooler things? I would actually love to hear from some of you if, since we launched Sunflower, if you have been using it to build anything, if you have been using it in your project workflows or anything like that. We would like to hear some of the use cases that have, if there's actually some impact from the technology that we are sharing. So for government and public sector, this is a place that we see a lot of value for speech technology because a large part of our languages are spoken. If you read a joke in Luganda and you hear it being spoken, those are two separate things. It might not get some things get lost in translation, tone, voice, things like that. So these are things that we're still working on improving. But as we keep building the technologies and we get excited about them, we try to make sure that they're out there and people can kind of build onto them. So government can use technology like this to enable access to citizens for information and access to public services. Like recently, I know Nita Uganda just launched an e-services platform for citizens to actually access some of the information that they would need to. So for the nonprofits and NGOs, you can use this technology for, let's say you're doing surveys, collecting data. If you were doing things where you are connecting with the last mile person and there is a language barrier, are we building this technology to kind of help you bridge that gap? Are you from private sector? Can you use these models, use our APIs to integrate into the different B2B apps that you have or customer support services, banking systems, etc., etc. And so this is one of the reasons why we have built things like this, and we keep building to make it better. So of course, it's not at a perfect state. Currently, one of the questions that I tend to keep having is somebody will see the set of languages and say, "But where is my language?" Um, your language, we're working on it. If you have a Bible, send it my way. If you have more resources, please send them my way. But as we keep building the ecosystem, we'll keep working on your languages. So if you don't see your language, be patient. We're coming. We're still building the ecosystem. Yeah. And if you have any questions, say you don't have a tech team and you want to be able to integrate some of this technology into your systems, or you would like to collaborate, you can send us an email at info@sunbird.ai or follow social media, send a DM, and then we can set up a meeting and try and walk you through any of the problems that you have or walk you through a collaboration, and we can kind of, build a better future for Uganda and Africa as a whole. Right. So I've been doing a lot of talking. So I think I'm going to transition us to the questions and answering portion of this section of this webinar. So I'm going to open up the floor. I know we have a few questions that were already um, shared in the chat. So I think we're going to try and answer those. But if you do have any questions that you would like to voice personally, you could just raise your hand and we'll call out to you and then you can answer a question. I think from looking at the chat, we tried to answer some of the questions. Like I know Mr. Ephraim Werza was asking what kind of TTS model we were using, and the TTS is based on Spark. So if there's any other questions, please let us know. You can put your hand up or type it in the chat.
Yeah, so there are some few questions in the Q&A. Maybe the team might want to first take those.
Yeah, all right. So we have one question from an anonymous attendee. What kind of GPU are we using to run these models? Benjamin Akera?
Yeah, so we have two stages to running these models. So for training, we use H100 GPUs. So that's what we use to sort of get our models to work to the state that they are. And then for inference, which is sort of what is more common, I think Patrick can confirm, but it's still sort of H100s. Bottom line, you need about 48 GB minimum VRAM to run these. And as we scale up, of course, it'll become more expensive. But we're working on trying to scale this down so that it can be more affordable and sort of accessible for everybody.
We have another question from Alex Movito. Is the audio model free? Yes, it is. Sunbird is a nonprofit, so a lot of the work that we do is open source and free. There was a question about the list of supported languages. I think we put those in the chat. If you would like access to it, we can put it in the chat again. Right. Okay, next question. How good is it at handling code switching cases if someone switches the language when talking? I think Evelyn can take that question. No? All right. Maybe John, you can answer that question.
Yeah, sure. I think like a bit of code switching, it can handle okay. You know, if it's like the odd word interspersed, if someone's speaking Luganda, but there's a few English words, you know, that's okay. It gets more difficult if someone really switches language, you know, mid-speech. If they say some sentences in Luganda and then switch to some sentences in English or Acholi or something. Part of the reason is the speech to text works better if you specify what the language is. So you can auto-detect with these models, but it's more reliable if you say, okay, this is Luganda, and then the model can use that context. Uh, so if you have an audio where it's really mixed, like someone begins talking in one language and then really switches language and speaks a lot longer, then depending on which language you specify the source is, it might capture part of that, or it might capture only the one language or only the other. So it has limitations, but like if it's code switching with a few words, that usually works okay.
All right, thanks, John. Right, so Mr. Amos Wilike, I hope I'm saying your name right, says, can Sunflower be trusted and used with services such as payments and integrated with payment platforms? For example, a user speaks in Acholi, Sunflower processes the request, backend connects to MTN Momo API/Airtel Money, and the various APIs for fintechs, Flutterwave, Pesapal, etc. And then the payment is executed through these APIs. Right. Benjamin?
Yeah, so what we've delivered are models that are again open weight. That means you can definitely download and create these wrappers or apps around them. And we also have APIs that you can do this. So what we provide is a very consistent way to process speech and return text, but also to sort of interact with this. So using our APIs, yes, you could possibly build wrappers around sort of extending these models to do all these things. And we'd be more than happy to sort of walk you through how you can use the APIs to do this. We have not directly experimented with building, APIs for mobile money transactions, but we've seen so many interesting applications that people have built, and the limit is sort of our imagination and what we can use with these tools.
Maybe I could just come in quickly to supplement that as well. This is a very interesting use case here. The kind of a user speaks to someone and then this calls a backend API like a payment. I think we should bear in mind that the models aren't perfect, so they do make some mistakes. Our word error rate, varies from language to language, and depending on how clear the source is, if there's background noise, if they're, how good their connection is, and so on. So for that kind of application, I'd recommend, speaking a confirmation back. Did you mean to deposit 1,000 shillings to this account. Press one to confirm or something like that. Otherwise, you may have hallucinations in the model, and it might go wrong, and someone sends the wrong amount of money to the wrong account or something. That would be not too good. So I think with the appropriate kind of checks, then maybe that could work.
All right, thanks, John. So we have another person that says they try to use the Sunbird LLM, and I try to tell it not to generate emojis, but it keeps generating emojis. What can I do? Unfortunately, you might have to blame me for that one. As the team was training Sunflower, I insisted on um on Sunflower showing up whenever it does the text. So what can you do to stop the generation of the emojis? I'm not sure you can stop it. You can try I think sometimes when you tell Sunflower to do something initially, it can glitch, but if you try it a few more times, it might be able to stop doing that. Maybe Joel can come in here. Sorry, Patrick, my bad. Not Joel.
Yeah, so if that is happening like most of the times, so what you can do is try refreshing and get a fresh instance of the web UI so that once you put it, you give it another request. This is a fresh request, and that I think would be able to stop the glitching with the emojis. For now, I think in the future we should be able to work on that and yeah, to stop more generating of emojis for some queries. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Farida Kachemererwe says, do we plan on partnering with linguists at a more technical level than a data level? Engineer and Solomon, I think, can take that.
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. I think as information, one of the collaborations that have happened when Sunflower coming to life has actually been working actively with language experts, for instance, from Makerere School of Languages. I think that was the first level. As you emphasize in your question, I think there's opportunity to engage at a deeper linguistic level. So definitely, we are always continuously looking at ways on how we can work with people who understand the language to basically evaluate what Sunflower is giving back, and seeing how we can basically embed the deep linguistics into the Sunflower. But that's it might vary depending on the use case. So it's hard to get Sunflower to give you a highly technical response, because that might not be what an average person needs in their conversation, but it might be use cases, of course, where that is applicable. So yeah.
Thanks, engineer. So we have more questions. I like please keep the questions coming. So there is a question from Dr. Kamuleja Grace, who says, what are the limitations to the text-to-speech data input? Can it translate stuff like 30 to 40 pages for books? Right, John, you can take that.
So the question was about text to speech or about translate stuff like books, right? The translation on Sunflower at the moment. Okay, I guess there's two things. There's text to speech and translation of long form. So text to speech is sentence wise. So you can translate as much as you like. Behind the scenes, what happens is it's broken up sentence by sentence, and each sentence is generated separately. So yeah, we've we've done tests where we generate, an hour's worth of audio from, 100 book pages or so, and that seems to work fine. Slightly monotonous, because the tone of voice doesn't really change over that time. But yeah, it's understandable. Translation, like books, so we do have some limitations on the amount that our model can translate at once. So much of our training and evaluation was at the level of one sentence or a few sentences. So, you can often translate a paragraph. For books, then it's worth splitting them up, and maybe experimenting with like how small you have to go. If you try to translate too much at once, then it can drift. You get semantic drift, and it kind of starts to hallucinate details. We do have some progress recently on reinforcement learning for translating longer documents. Hopefully, that's going to get better. But yeah, right now I translate with shorter segments at a time.
Right. Thanks, John. There's a question from Sheila Ahumuza who is asking, does the model filter out offensive responses? Yes, that one, yes, it does. We have been trying to train to make sure that it is not offensive and does not exacerbate certain biases into society. So that's something that we're actively, continuously trying to make sure that our model is not adding problems to the world, but detracting from them. I think there is another question from Ibrahim Muwerza. So how did we work around the 30-second whisper bandwidth for the input audio? Having seen that our limit is 15 minutes for audio. Yeah. John Gilbert.
Yeah, I can take that one. So basically, it's a sliding window. So what happens is the inference happens over. So yeah, you're totally right. In Whisper, the encoder takes a 30-second sequence of audio and makes that into a numerical representation. So what happens is the model takes these successive like frames, overlapping frames of 30 seconds, and then stitches them together afterwards, so you can process longer sequences.
Right. We have a few more minutes, so I'm going to go through just a few more questions. There was one that was pretty important about data privacy. So how about our privacy? What happens to my audio once I upload it? What happens to my transcription or my data or my audio data once I have put it into your system? Right. Benjamin, would you like to take that one?
So what happens to the audio when you pass it to the system? So again, for the open weights, all these data is local. Like, so if you download the weights and sort of views this locally, everything happens on your machine or on the host computer that you sort of host it on. While for the APIs, all this data is again private. We do not sort of go in and check what audios have been processed. So there's a privacy layer on top of that.
Okay, right. So I'm going to take three more questions and then we'll have the closing remarks. But we do have a social media, an email address, and all the things where you can ask more questions. I know this is a lot of exciting stuff. Right. So Umar Kayondo wants to know if this is limited to sunflower or can this be applied to other plants? I assume he's asking whether the methodology we used for sunflower speech can be applied to other models to get some responses. I hope I have that correct. Yeah. I think John, you can take that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I've got the interpretation, so we're making the Sunflower LLM speech aware. Could you do that to other models too? In principle, yes, you can do that with any architecture. So what we've been doing, there's if someone really wants to get into the details of this, there's a architecture called Ultravox, and so this is part of the code base that we use to do this projection of like speech encodings into the LLM, and that can, in principle, work uh, for other models too. But that's kind of research level. It's pretty, it's a bit involved to train that. So it can be done, but it's kind of a research question, I'd say.
Okay. Right. So what are the licensing? So can we use the model and API? Can it be used for commercial purposes? Yes, we can. You can use the model for commercial purposes. That's the point of open source. Once you take the model, then you can use it for the different use cases that you have. The licensing, I think, is Harvard licensing. Am I right, John?
This is and the open weight models are CC by 4.0. That means you can it's a Creative Commons license that you can sort of use for and extend it to whatever purposes you want to use it for. There are no limitations in that side of things.
Okay.
Yeah, Janet is back.
Yeah, sorry about that. I got a few technology mishaps. So I'm going to do one of the important questions that I saw here from Emmanuel Liada. He or she asked, we have emphasized that Sunflower is built with communities. How are you handling data sovereignty and ensuring that the local stories and traditional knowledge used to train the model remain owned by the people who provide them? I think Professor Engineer Bainomagisha.
Yeah, that's a very important question. I think, as you know, I hinted on earlier on, all our work is actually co-created with the communities. So we work with the communities to contribute their resources. One of the things we do, of course, is ensure that once you create these resources, we don't put any prohibitive licenses. So things are open and available for anyone to use responsibly. But we also take, people who contribute to communities as co-creators. We have actually published some papers where we explain the methodology behind this and what's at stake for the communities, as well as, Sunbird to the resources we create. But most importantly is that the resources we create, the main available on very open licenses to allow everyone to be on the same resources to benefit the community.
Yeah, all right. So that's all the questions that unfortunately we have time for. We are at the top of the hour. However, I've taken note of most of your questions, so I will try to answer most of them. Michael Erikosi, welcome. Sorry you have joined at the end of the webinar, but I'm going to have this recording uploaded to YouTube, so I will share the link and you can go back and answer, kind of watch it through and see what you have missed, what you'd like to ask, and things like that. So we also have an info@Sunbird email. So we have this thing called AI Clinics where we can set up a free 30-minute meeting with you if you have a very specific AI problem that you were trying to work through. We can, send us an email, let us know what kind of problem or what blockage you're facing, or maybe you've tried our API or something's not working. You can send us an email and we'll set up a meeting and kind of, for 30 minutes, walk you through or try and listen and think with you on what you're trying to solve, how we can basically help. And I think that should be good. So we have come to an end of our webinar session for today. So I'd like to thank everyone who has joined us. We're going to have more of these. I am going to be sharing, you will be receiving an email after this webinar where you will get access to the models if you would like to try them yourselves. We also have a Sunbird community link where you can click that and join our community. Follow us on social media, specifically X and LinkedIn. If you have any other questions or you would like to interact with Sunbird a little more. I know we focused on language technology, but there's also a lot more technologies that we have that you could be curious about, and you can, send us an email. I keep saying send us an email, but trust me, you will get a response to the email. And then if you are also interested in collaborating with Sunbird and exploring how these models can be used in your work, we encourage you to reach out again and reach out to us. And I would like to thank you for your time and participation. You've been very interactive. I am so sorry to the people that we did not get to answer all their questions, but we definitely look forward to continuing this conversation and working together to build a more inclusive AI for Africa. So have a lovely day. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.